that chair.
It cuts off like the first the bullet and the first like 2 letters. But I can figure contact clues.
Well, sorry about that.
No.
I was smart enough to check the back corners, but not smart enough to check that chair.
Doesn't bother me.
I just moved a little bit.
If I really cared, I would move.
Right, if it really worked out.
And really, all I have to do is lean towards Jacqueline, and she doesn't mind snuggling. Like that.
I know that refinery well. So they had, when I was a kid, kind of, yeah. I'm from Memphis. Yeah. I'm from Memphis. So, I mean, I've watched, I've driven by there for years on Interstate 240 and, you know, seen the stacks and the smoke. And so, pretty neat. I'm trying to think. Is there somebody that goes to church here that works at Valero? Or did work at Valero? Not that I know. Ronnie, this is John. Hi, I'm John. This is my wife, Misty.
Hey, nice to meet you.
How you doing?
Valero. The gas station, right? Hey, Ronnie.
No, the refinery.
Refinery.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is Rebecca. I'm trying to think. Nobody comes to mind.
Do you work at Valero?
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it Drew? Did Drew Buffet work at Valero?
Oh, he might have been an engineer. Yeah,
An engineer.
he might have been. Yeah.
It's not ringing a bell, but these days I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, so much less. I could mix it up with Buckeye. Yeah, it's been. That sounds more familiar for Drew, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe so.
The refinery. I'm a scaffold builder, so that's
Build scaffolds to go.
Oh, wow.
I'll be good with that.
Do you climb them?
yes.
Ooh.
And building myself.
Wow. That's pretty
Are you just here temporarily, or moving here just temporarily?
Yeah, it's for the turnaround.
Huh?
For the turnaround. That period.
I got to do repair work.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just go where they do scaffolding, like your company's a different company.
Yeah, it's Brown Power,
Okay.
and they work within Valero. They re-inspect and
How are you?
areas that need either restoration or modifying, welding, working.
Okay.
So I build the scaffold for
So you just kind of go all over. Where all do you go?
like,
Well, that's a fun. Where all have you been? Like what state?
I've been to California and to Florida.
Okay. Okay. And you stay about how long?
Oh, and in those 2 states, I only stay for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, but in this type of job, I'm probably going to be staying for until December. I'm not sure.
Good. Okay. Good.
This will be a good place for you to worship. This is Abby.
Yeah.
Abby.
Hi.
Ronnie.
Ronnie, nice to meet you. Yeah. Well, how did you find us?
How's the drug world?
And
How's the drug dealer?
I didn't realize until I walked in tonight
Yeah.
that this door was being locked all Sunday.
Okay.
So I moved one of the seats to face the door so that people could. I know that's blocking out half the room.
Really. I've been just to carry this really fun accessory.
Oh, are you on call?
I'm so sorry. But tonight's my last night. Okay. So thankful.
So when does it end officially?
Tomorrow night.
Okay, tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's been a week.
Have you had to respond?
I have a couple of times. Definitely, I lose count during the day. Like, it doesn't stop ringing, but at night, it's only been twice, I think. Okay. So, that's not too bad. And it wasn't too late. I was, like, driving home from work, so I was still mentally out there.
Yeah. As opposed to 2 a.m.
Yes. Yeah.
We were watching a show the other day, and the main character kept getting calls at like 2 in the morning and stuff, and it kept showing her trying to reach for the phone. I get to the alarm clock. She kept trying to reach for it. She was so tired of just knocking everything over, hitting the alarm clock.
I've been putting it on
25.
Yeah, but nobody's called me. I say that now and I get called me. I moved to TPN in the middle of the night. Well, I can't see that it'll be that big of a murder. Yeah, I mean, they need it. I'm always like weary of it. Yeah. I like try to stay after that, but then usually it's fine. If anybody would call me after that, it's usually the night.
All right, Brian's here, so we can get started. No, I'm glad. At first I was wondering how many people we would have. So exactly. I don't know. That's what it was. There's been a huge drop off since Sunday. So for those that may be visiting or maybe not able to attend regularly, we're going through a book about choices, and each of the lessons, I think there's 12 if I had counted correctly. I think there's 12. Each of the lessons is a particular choice, and the choice that we're choosing, the choice that we're studying this week is choosing to serve. And so we started that lesson Sunday morning. Many of you were here. Some of you had other things going on. And then we're going to finish up that Choose to Serve lesson tonight. And so on Sunday we talked about what it meant to serve. And we talked about Jesus being our example. And then we didn't quite get to how we can be like him. And that was okay because we had some really good discussions and things. And then tonight, we're going to do a quick review and then talk about other examples and how many people remembered the homework assignment from Sunday morning. Okay, nobody did. Okay, so as I'm going through the recap, be thinking about, okay, is there another person in the Bible besides Jesus that, thank you for acknowledging. I was like, there's Sunday. It's like, did I dream this Monday night? But be thinking about a person in the Bible other than Jesus that exemplified some of these characteristics that we're talking about that actually chose to serve. And what I'm hoping is we've got some good discussions, some good examples. And we'll probably not get through all the material, but that's okay. So we'll talk about some other examples. We'll talk about some obstacles to serving. And then kind of concluding with kind of a commitment or a choice to serve. And so we'll do that. I did find this on LinkedIn, and I know it's kind of fuzzy for those in the back. But it was interesting. Sunday evening, I was going through LinkedIn, which is a website for business opportunities. It's like business posts and business opportunities. And they asked, I had to look up what Gen Alpha was. Does anybody know who Gen Alpha is? No. Apparently, it's people that have been born since 2010. So that is Gen Alpha. I was like, okay, So they did a survey of, I think it was 910 Gen Alpha kids from 12 to 15 years old. And they basically asked them in a nutshell, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they had multiple choices. So that's why the percentages don't add up across. But the number one thing across that gap was a YouTuber. That when they grew up, that's what they wanted to be. And the second most chosen one was a TikTok creator. So 51%, I think if I did the math correctly, 51% of the choices, again, they could choose more than one, but 51% of the choices were either a YouTuber or TikTok creator. Surprisingly, a nurse or a doctor came in third. And then if you read through here, there's video game developers, there is artist, online streamer, what was this one? Entrepreneur. And then, of course, teacher was down at the bottom. So it was striking to me, the answers. I think if you looked at whatever my generation is, I think I'm the forgotten generation. If you know what I am. If you look at what generation I am, I mean, it was doctor, lawyer, architect, you know, and so what's that? Teacher was one, you know, nurse, doctor, and then now it's YouTuber and TikTok creators.
Those choices were not available to us.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and kids probably think they're easier than they actually are. Like, they probably don't realize the work that goes into that kind of career choice.
Correct. We saw. I'm not sure how we were on the show, but it was about these two influencers, this married couple that was influencers. They would get free vacations at different places as long as they posted about their vacation, and it was a promotional thing for the places they vacationed at. And so they were getting a free vacation, they were getting paid, but then their work was to post online and give reviews and things like that. And they talked the entire episode about how exhausting it was. And as I had spent 6 hours cutting grass and Mitch had been doing all, we're like, okay, how exhausting is that? You know, you take a couple of pictures by the pool or whatever. So the point of this was, what does this say about our culture and what we're teaching our kids to value? And I think you're right. I think a lot of people don't understand the amount of work that goes in it. But none of these are, let me rephrase it. A lot of these are perceived as, I want to get a lot of money quickly with maybe not a lot of effort.
They're also mostly entertainment related.
Correct.
Well, and two, I think that this is just the next level, if you will, of how affluent we are. And you know, we know that whenever with the affluency comes this type of attitude where it's almost they want just the easy way,
right?
But also we're not suffering, and I mean as a whole, and so that's why, you know, Rob Hurt used to always be amazed when he would read the reports from the Philippines, baptism after baptism after baptism. They would read reports from guys here, one a year maybe.
Yeah.
And it isn't that they're not good preachers or teachers. It's just that, you know, it's the soil. And I think this is just evident of that too. I mean, we're so soft.
Yeah. And in some cases, we don't see the need in their everyday lives for salvation.
Well, John,
whereas if we're suffering a
back
lot.
in the 70s, I remember you made me think of it. You said that back in the late 70s, we were canvassing the neighborhood, about like this neighborhood here, where I worshiped in the Seals, because we had sent them the bulletin. And one person says, and they had a real nice home and a lot of cars. Said, I don't need God, look what I got.
Right, exactly.
And that was pretty bold. Yeah. I think that attitude is really permeated.
It has. And so this caught my eye. I think it was Sunday evening. I was kind of going through some stuff and saw this and just wanted to kind of tie it back to, again, you know, when I grew up, when our kids grow up, what is it that they think is important? What are they aspiring to be? Are they aspiring to be servants? Are they not? And there's a whole lot that goes into that. So to recap from Sunday, I'm glad I took a picture, but these were the words that we came up with. And so as we talk about the characteristics of an effective servant, this was the list that we came up. And again, this is not an exhaustive list, but if you think about these characteristics, humility, you know, having a good attitude or having an attitude of gratitude, being loyal, willing is a key thing. Again, it's a choice to serve. It doesn't necessarily come natural for us. Sincerity, leading by example, selfless, listening, knowledgeable, honest, dedicated, committed, and responsible. And I would imagine that all of us, if they said, hey, describe John Ware, we would want a list like that about ourselves, right? If somebody was going to describe us, it would be a similar list to that, I would imagine, is what we would all desire. And we talked about this being characteristics of an effective servant. And then we also, too, and I think I left all the things on here, so it'll take me a while to click through it. But we talked about just 10 things with Jesus being our example. And some Bible verses that illustrated these different aspects. And the interesting thing for me was this list of 10 characteristics is pretty close to the characteristics that we came up with just as a group. And again, if you kind of think about, we went through on Sunday just different aspects of how Jesus was our example related to these characteristics. So thank you for taking a picture of that. I put this up specifically thinking, I wonder if somebody will take a picture. So thank you for that. And again, it's got verses there where it shows examples, and we read those, with the exception I overlooked JR, so apologies for that. But we went through this list, and again, Jesus is our example, exhibited all of these characteristics, and obviously many more, but this was just a list of 10. So tonight, as we think about other examples, one of the things we talked about Sunday morning was this, think about people that have been mentioned in the Bible that have shown characteristics of being an effective servant. And, who is that person, maybe having a Bible, a verse, or a passage, or some reference, and then what aspect or what characteristic of serving did they show? And the first one that came to my mind was David. And, we all know that it talks many times in the Bible about David having the heart of God, heart like God. And so, as we look at David, we know that he was a servant and provided service to Saul, thank you. Because it was not a different person. It was a different person and not somebody who had their name changed later. So as King Saul, he was a musician. If you go back to 1 Samuel 6, let's do this. Who would like to read 1 Samuel 16, 21 through 23? 1 Samuel 16, 21 through 23. Thank you.
So David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly and became his armor bearer. Then Saul sent to Jesse, saying, Please let David stand before me, for he has found favor in my sight. And so it was, whenever the Spirit from God was upon Saul, that David would take a harp and play it with his hand. Then Saul would become refreshed and well, and the distressing spirit would depart from him.
Thank you for that. And so as we look at David, he served King Saul as a musician as well as an armor bearer. And then what does it say? What was his attitude towards King Saul? I think it said in there. Yeah, right. And so again, we don't live in a country where there's an actual king, and I know there's certain dynamics with that and all that, but it's clear that David served King Saul, both in the job duties, but also in his attitude. And then I would also suggest that in this, David performed service to God. And would somebody read 1 Samuel 24:6? So 1 Samuel 24, verse 6.
And he said unto his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth mine hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord.
Okay, in the context of this, if I remember correctly, the context of this is David had an opportunity. So King Saul was chasing David and trying to kill him. And then David had an opportunity to actually kill King Saul when King Saul did not know that he was there. And Jim, read that verse again. So David has the opportunity to kill the person who's about to kill him. And then that's 1 Samuel 24:6.
And he said unto his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth mine hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord.
So, my master, right? There's humility there. There's service there. But the interesting thing to me, what's that?
Respect.
100%.
I love how David knows his place, just like we should.
Correct.
We should never think so highly of ourselves, and he did not.
And the thing, and it tells us the justification of why he favored King Saul. And that's the way the verse ends. He called him God's anointed. Even when King Saul was not acting the way that God's anointed should act, he still respected that position and respected him that way.
And something I had to recognize until recently, David was on the run for 20 years. I mean, I never recognized that. I thought it was like,
Yeah.
Because you read it, you don't get the gist of, wow, I mean, 20 years but he still had that same attitude up until when Saul died.
Exactly, and I should have added, I did put patience up there. But so some of the characteristics that we've been talking about: loyalty, patience, a willingness to serve, humility, which is what you mentioned as well. And so that was, when I think about other people in the Bible that have exhibited the characteristics of an effective servant, David was the one that popped in. And again, when we talk about Jesus being our example, that the Son of Man came to serve, and the first answer we talked about on Sunday morning was serve mankind or serve us. But then not only, he also served God. And that was the thing that resonated with me, was David, again, was serving King Saul, but at the same time in that service was serving God. And so kind of a 2-for-1 there. So let's hear from you. Who has another person in the Bible that they feel exemplifies the characteristics of service that they would like to share? Mitzi?
Yeah, the one that immediately popped in my head was Joseph of Arimathea. And I love how he said, I did not consent to their decision and action. And I liked it. He would have strength in wanting to serve his Lord. And he took love and care, took the body, wrapped it in linen, put it in his own personal, private, right? I just thought
in the tomb, right?
In the tomb. I just thought that was so beautiful.
Yeah, and if we look at, let me go back up, I guess, and if we look at some of the characteristics.
And I'll say Luke, I did the Luke version, Luke 23, 30, or 50.
What was that again?
I did Luke, yes, all stuff. I did Luke 23, 50.
All right, perfect. And what if you had to pick one characteristic of a servant? I know you said it, but I wasn't paying attention like I should.
I would say strength, because I love how he said, I did not consent to their decision and action.
Okay.
So no matter, he was going to do the right thing. He was going to seek God. And
Courage.
Yeah.
That was the one that we talked about on Sunday. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them in there.
Yeah.
So strength, courage, integrity.
And just true love of wanting to take care of Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. And again, there's plenty there. And again, obviously, what I'm trying to do with this part of the lesson tonight is that as we look at these other examples, you know, it's kind of reinforcing what does it mean to choose to serve, and how can we do that. I saw your hand first. Did you want to say something, or you got a person? Okay. You and here.
I thought about Dorcas in Acts 9.
All right, y'all are killing me with the spelling, but okay. Dorcas.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
She was so loved by these people that when she got sick and died, they sent for Peter to bring her back to life.
Yeah.
It says she was full of good works and acts of charity. So generous and kindness and whatnot.
And what was that verse again?
It was Acts 9 and starting in 36 is her story.
Perfect.
What about Ruth?
Yep.
And you know, when her husband died and Naomi lost her husband and her sons, and the other daughter-in-law went back to her homeland, and Ruth said, you know, wherever you go, I will go, and your God will be my God. And then, you know, she served her mother-in-law. She made sure that she had food, she had the things that she needed, and she ultimately, you know, really provided by finding a good husband. So.
And did you have a passage for that?
Oh yeah, Ruth it starts in Ruth 1, and then of course she meets Boaz.
I was going to say the whole book.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is the book of And if you had to summarize just one or two,
She rubbed feet.
okay, just rough feet, okay.
And then what, isn't that what she did?
Humility, right?
Yeah.
I think she gave up her whole
Yes.
life, her family.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
There we go.
Sacrificed her want and need to
Yeah.
care for her mother.
Yeah.
Because it's not about me. You know, who's it?
Yeah, actually, I think I have two.
Okay.
I'm not sure if
This is fantastic because you didn't even know the homework assignment tonight. So thank you for that.
well, one of the examples of someone who served, I may know that the purpose was different of what you're trying to explain.
Yes.
I'm thinking of Jacob
Okay.
when he meets Rachel. So he says that he worked not just 7 but 14 in total because he was given the wrong daughter.
Yep.
He worked another 7 just for her, and it can be for love and sacrifice as well.
Yep.
A lot of loyalty.
She must have really been special.
And it says, and I found this Genesis 29:20.
Perfect. Genesis 29:20. Yeah, we've all read that, so thank you. And we've all read that story and wow, what a kind of a gut punch, right? And that you think you are doing something for one thing, and then, it's not. I know, and but just having, the love for Rachel, first of all, but then the sacrifice, the accountability, the loyalty. I think it's an excellent example because again, was Jacob putting his desire or his will first in that? He was kind of stepping back and saying, "Hey, it's not about me." So great. And you said you had a second one?
Yes.
Okay, I'll come back to you on the second one then. Yes.
I thought about Joshua.
Okay.
Just because he served the Lord so patiently, and he was so dedicated to the Lord, just to lead the Israelites into the Promised Land and to fight for the land, and he was dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
Patience, because I know he had to have a lot of that. Yeah. And he did that to the very end.
Faithfulness, right? And just, I guess, the book of Joshua, maybe, or...
I have 24:15. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord.
Yeah, and that's fantastic because, again, it's a choice. It's exactly what we've been talking about Sunday and talking about, I think we talked about Sunday morning, humility and service and putting others first is not something that becomes natural to us. And so it's a choice. And so hopefully through the example that we have of Jesus and then in some of the stuff we're talking about, we can see, okay, other people have made this choice, I can make this choice, right? Right?
I thought about Barnabas.
Okay.
Oh,
Was it?
I was ahead of you though. In Acts, two verses in Acts 4, in verse 36, it says, Joseph, a Levite from Cyprus, whom the apostle called Barnabas, which means sons of encouragement, sold a field he owned and brought the money and put it at the feet of the apostles. And then we see later on in Acts 9, verse 26, where it says, when Saul came to Jerusalem, he tried to join the disciples. They were afraid of him, but Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles. And then, kind of greased his skids for him.
And you said Acts 9?
Acts 9, 26, 27.
26, 27, okay.
Me and Jim worked on that one together.
Like it. And I think it's not only encouragement, but also, too, maybe compassion.
Yeah, compassion and sacrifice. He sold the land and gave it just as many of them. They specifically mentioned doing that.
And the crazy thing is, you know, we kind of read verses like that, but it's like, I don't know any of us that probably know someone who has been actively killing and persecuting Christians, where we maybe knew the people that they were persecuting and killing, and then that person comes to us later and they've changed. I mean, we kind of breeze through that verse, but if you think, I mean, it's understandable that they were afraid, or maybe they doubted, or maybe they weren't. Maybe they thought it was a trick. You know,
it says in 27 that Barnabas saw him in the way the Lord saw him. So when he brought his name to them, so that's, like you said, very bold.
Yeah, and wisdom too. Excellent. Okay, so we got a twofer in the back row there. Yes.
Noah.
Okay.
Genesis 6:9-22. It kind of goes through how, you know, God goes to him, telling him how he's going to destroy the world with the flood, and how he wants him to build this ark and get all the animals 2 by 2, and, you know, kind of just wait for it to happen. And he just, at the very end, he obeys and does what God tells him to do. So it just kind of shows obedience, belief that what God's telling him is true, loyalty and patience.
100 years of patience.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
a long patience.
Right, the prayer, give me patience and give it to me now. Right. No, absolutely, because again, you have to think about just over that whole time period, just the day-to-day. Am I doing the right thing? People, am I doing exactly? Am I doing the right thing? It's just really, it's okay. It didn't happen today. Is it going to happen tomorrow? Is it going to, there's that verse, and I always forget if it's where it is, but it's about, the Lord being patient and not wishing for any to perish, but for all to come to repentance. And having that belief that God is going to do what He says. But it may not be tomorrow. It may not be the next day. But having that patience is tough, because we live in a society, TikTok creator. We want to, I want to see it now. All right. Any other examples?
I got Moses and Aaron.
Moses and Aaron. Okay.
And it's throughout Exodus.
All right. Okay. Hey, Ron. Exodus. Okay, and what characteristics come to mind?
Willingness.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Patience, I'm sure. Encouragement. And humility.
Yeah, when you think about the patience, did the children of Israel, did they always listen and do what they're supposed to do? Right, it's like our kids at home, right? We said willingness, patience, humility, and there was one I missed. We'll go with that. Yeah, but yeah, just over the whole time period, and just again, you talk about David being on the run for 20 years and just maintaining that. Moses, just that whole thing, as well. It's just like, okay, wandering in the desert for 40 years. I mean, just every day trying to say, okay, is today the day? Is tomorrow the day? I mean, you think about just how that would wear you down. And again, I would imagine all of us have reached points where, like, okay, I'm weary. I'm weary of being a servant. I'm weary of that. And the Bible tells us not to grow weary. And it also tells us that in Christ we can do all things. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Well, John, even when he got to the point where God was about ready to do him in, Moses was the one talked him out of it a couple times.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying he's more patient than God, but even, I would probably say, yeah, take him.
Right, especially with it Sodom, if there's 20 people, if there's 10 people, and then finally it's like, nope, I guess we're not going to go lower because we'll reach the magic number. Yes.
I thought of Esther.
Okay.
And I would think compassion, integrity, willingness to serve, prayerfulness, and faithfulness. And kind of read because mine's kind of long.
Please.
In Esther 4:9 and the following. And Hathach went and told Esther what Mordecai had said. Then Esther spoke to Hathach and commanded him to go to Mordecai and say, all the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that if any man or woman goes to the king inside the inner court without being called, there is but one law, to be put to death, except the one to whom the king holds out the golden scepter so that he may live. But as for me, I have not been called to come into the king these 30 days. And they told Mordecai what Esther had said. Then Mordecai told them to reply to Esther, do not think to yourself that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this. And so that's almost like a persuasive argument to her. She's on the fence, like, I'm going to die, it's not my time. But he's saying, you are here, possibly, to just save your people.
Right.
And in her response, she was faithful to her uncle and the wisdom that she had and the love of the Lord that she had. And she told all the Jews to fast with her for 3 days and for 3 nights. And she did what she knew would cost her life. And because she took that leap of faith, she saved her people. She was almost a queen. She didn't have to do that. She could have been sitting by her king and living this life of luxury and royalty while her people perished. It's not her problem.
Right.
And she chose to sacrifice potentially her life to save God's people.
It was that choice, exactly. Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
The same thing with Moses and Esther. You know, Moses kept saying, I'm not eloquent, I can't do this, I don't want to do this. And I'm sure Esther didn't want to do it either.
Well, and
just had to take that leap of faith and just believe in God. Because sometimes we're put in situations where we just don't want to do certain things. No matter if it's right or not. I mean, even if it's right, we just don't want to do it. But we just got to understand that God put us in that position for a reason.
What's in my notes just happened to be here. 1 Peter 2:21. For to this you have been called, because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example so that you might follow in his steps. There's a lot of hard things that we go through in this life. I would imagine, though, if we look at what Jesus was going through, that was pretty hard. Because he knew what was going to happen. We talked Sunday morning. He told the disciples what was going to happen on the way to Jerusalem. He said, "This is what's going to happen." And so, again, Jesus was able to do that as our example. And so, absolutely, it's going to be hard.
Mine kind of goes with what Ms. Eve said, but mine was Abraham.
Okay.
And how he had waited so long for a son, and God gave him one. And then when God told him that you need to sacrifice your son, he had the heart of a servant and was willing to serve God and give up the one thing that he had waited so long for. And he had such faith in God that he didn't know before this, no one had been raised from the dead, but he believed that God could do that, even though there was no example of it. And so I think just his dedication and faith to God, and really I also thought about just all of the people in Hebrews 11, the heroes of faith chapter, everyone in that chapter had such faith in God that they were willing to serve God regardless of what they had to give up for themselves.
Exactly, and that's kind of one of the ties I want to make in this lesson again, is that service to God is exhibited in our service to others. And if you look at Jesus, again, he came to serve. Well, he was serving God, but in serving God the Father, he actually served mankind. My example of David, he was serving God, but that was exemplified in his service to King Saul as opposed to King Paul.
I think at the height, pretty much in all the examples, it ultimately is about sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Service is all about sacrifice. But you think about what the apostles sacrificed. They walked away from family. They walked away from careers. They walked away from, a home.
Yeah.
To